The following program is sponsored in part by To a Woman's Heart. The thoughts and views expressed by the following production don't necessarily reflect those of the network or any sponsors. Rainbow Room Publishing Live, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For the abolition, of the blood. For the voyage, of the people, of the people. For the secrets, of the homeland, hid in a book. Itchy, yeah. Black boy magic, activate. Rainbow Room Publishing welcomes you to Homecoming, the virtual reading and Q&A event for From a Black Perspective, the Homeland, featuring presentations from Life and Writing Partners, NAOMI Rivers, musician and author, EROS de Artiste, journalist and humanities professor, Dr. Tamara Hill, veteran contributing author, COMPTON, actress, visual artist, and veteran contributor, author, SENYAH HAYNES, author, publisher, and producer, Eddie S. Pierce. And we're joined by our guest co-hosts, host, producer, and advocate, Michelle Brown. And author, producer, host, and advocate, Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Homecoming, produced by Tony Liddell for Beatland Productions. And I am Eddie S. Pierce, your producer, your host, the scribe of Wakanda. And I, on behalf of everyone, welcome you home. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to Homecoming, the virtual Q&A reading and Q&A event for From a Black Perspective, the Homeland. I'm your host and producer, Eddie Pierce, and I thank you for joining us today. As you can see from the pre-show presented by Kaleidoscope, the upcoming digital art magazine, we're delivering high energy and hoping you will help us to encourage these very deserving authors. Remember that we are looking for crowd participation in the form of comments, questions, and well wishes for the authors during their individual segments, as well as the general Q&A panel discussion hour. Now, I want to present to some and briefly introduce to others our honorees of the evening. First and foremost, we have our veteran contributors from volumes 1 and 2, The Blood and the People, respectively, SENYAH HAYNES, COMPTON, Dr. Tamara Hill, and we also have our newcomers who are no less talented, NAOMI and Rivers, the writing and life partner team. We thank you all for joining us today. Of course, you're going to hear from them all in a second. But let us also bring in and introduce to the rest of you our gracious guest co-host, Miss Michelle Elizabeth Brown, an activist, a producer, and the host of the radio podcast Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown on Blog Talk Radio and SoundCloud, an advocate, author, and multimedia powerhouse himself, Mr. Wyatt O'Brien Evans, also the host of Wyatt, the video podcast on YouTube. Michelle and Wyatt, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you feeling?
Oh,
you go first, Michelle.
it's just really great, particularly as we come to the end of Black History Month, to be here with these powerhouses and my brother Wyatt.
Well, you know what, Eddie, Michelle, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. We're going to have a great show. And like Michelle said, these are some powerhouse talents that we have here today.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Well, look, we already a little bit behind, and so we're going to get right to it. We're going to bring Wyatt out for a second. And Michelle, take it away.
Wow, great. I have the pleasure and honor of introducing the wife writing team of NAOMI Rivers. NAOMI Rivers writes lesbian romance and women's fictions. They are, as I said, a wife writing team who believes in romance, fairy tales, and happily ever after endings. Their first novel, This Is a Simple, Complex Love Story, was written over 20 years to maintain their connection during multiple deployments. They're both retired U.S. military veterans, and we thank you both for your service, and reside with their 2 rescue dogs on the East Coast. Their writings have appeared in iHeart's Sapphic Anthology, Favorite Scenes from Favorite Authors. This team drew inspiration from their own origin story and made the best of being separated because of military assignments. They wrote their first novel by exchanging parts of the story and building on what the other had written. Their contribution to this anthology, Welcome Home, is a short story that continues the novel, This, a Simple, Complex Love Story. Ladies, welcome, and we're happy to hear what you're bringing to the table today.
Thank you.
Hi, Michelle. It's so good to see you and to be back and to be able to chat.
Mm-hmm. And see each other.
Yes.
So you're going to do a reading today. We're looking forward to that. And if you want to give a little lead into it and tell us a little bit about it, and then who's going to do the reading?
Sure. I'm going to do the reading. And what I'm sharing today is from an excerpt from This, a Simple, Complex Love Story. This excerpt is a prequel to our chapter published in From a Black Perspective, the Homeland. And with, we're saying welcome home in the Homeland. And that's what that chapter is about. But this particular reading is, it's a Saturday afternoon. And the main characters, Jasmine and T, have just finished an early dinner date. And they aren't quite ready to say goodbye and go home. So Jasmine asks T if she wants to go with her while she's house sitting for a friend. And the scene picks up at the house where Jasmine is watching the house for the friends. So here we go. Although I didn't get any love from my usual friends, I was excited about seeing Jasmine 2 days in a row. I'm glad she agreed to meet me for an early dinner, although neither of us ate very much. Because here I was standing alone with her, with nothing or no one else between us except the emanating energy drawing us together. I see a beautiful work of art right here, I said. Nothing could compare. Stop. You're embarrassing me, Jasmine said as she pulled away from me, grabbed my hand, and led me to the rear of the house. She opened the blinds to reveal several sets of French doors that led to the deck and backyard. We stepped onto the large wooden deck that stretched the length of the house. It overlooked a sloping manicured lawn, which gently met a narrow creek. Jasmine noticed me staring off into space again and leaned into my shoulder. Penny for your thoughts, Again, she said. I smiled and came out of my trance. Sometimes I wonder why I stay in the city, you know? The constant movement, sirens, people walking by all times of the night. Out here you can hear yourself think, I said, walking down the stairs into the lawn with my camera bag slung over my shoulder. Yeah, that's why I moved a bit further out, too. Too much going on for me in the heart of the city, Jasmine added, following me. Where are you going? This place is perfect, and the sun has started to go down, so shadows won't be as harsh. I said, knowing full well I probably wasn't making sense. Perfect for what? Please tell me what you're talking about, Jasmine wanted to know. Ever since I met you, I wanted to take your picture. You just happen to have a camera in your car? Jasmine was rightfully suspicious. Since I was going to see you, I grabbed it just in case, I said with a sly smile. I hoped you would agree. Did you now? Jasmine arched one eyebrow. Yes, I did. I couldn't pretend my carrying a camera was anything other than what it really was. I thought Jasmine was gorgeous, and the artist in me wanted to capture that. Since you got all gussied up, why not let me take your photograph? I asked while pulling my camera out of its case. Cause, Jasmine said. Cause what? I wanted to know. Cause I don't necessarily like taking pictures, she answered. I get that, but you're beautiful, I said. You probably say that to all your girls. Not really, I gently responded, which was the absolute truth. I aimed the camera towards Jasmine, adjusted the lens, and pressed the shutter button. You know what makes you beautiful, I asked. Click. What? Jasmine asked, peeking out from behind the strands of her hair that covered her face. You're smooth with it, I said. Like you know you're beautiful, but you downplay it. Click. Hey, go stand over there next to those trees. Click. T, you're a bit over the top, don't you think? Jasmine asked, trying to block the lens with her hand, but she leaned out against the tree anyway. Click. She stuck out her tongue. Click. Then frowned. Click, click. She did the look away, capture my profile thing. Click. She smiled. Click. She blushed. Click, click, click. You're not going to blackmail me with these photos, are you? She asked. Why would I do that? I don't know. You know, we're still in that getting to know you stage. How do I know you're not going to do something malicious with them? You don't. Does your intuition tell you I would? I asked. No. What does it tell you? You don't want to know, Jasmine said shyly. Yes, I do. Never mind. You can't just drop it like that, I said, reaching for Jasmine's hand. Tell me, what is your intuition telling you about me, about us being here, about our previously unspoken connection? So you sense it too, she asked. How could I not? I asked in return. After a long silence, Jasmine said, T, yeah, it scares me, she said barely above a whisper, and let my hand go. The connection scares me. We've not known each other very long. A hot minute is being generous. I'm not supposed to think about you when I don't see you at the harbor. I'm not supposed to count the days until I see you again, or the minutes between our emails. I'm not supposed to get all warm inside when I do see you. Your intention tells you to run like hell. Yes and no. That's the scary part. What do you mean? I shouldn't be telling you this, she said reluctantly. Why not? Because if I speak it into the atmosphere, if I speak about us as if there is an us, if I start wondering what if, I believe it becomes closer to reality. I get that. And you don't want that reality, I asked. I don't know, T. I just don't know, Jasmine confessed. My sensible step-by-step approach to life says, get as far away from you as I possibly can. On the other hand, She abruptly interrupted her train of thought. Come on, there's more to see. Jasmine grabbed my hand again and pulled me back towards the house. I really wasn't that interested in looking at this suburban bumpy house. What I really wanted to do was continue our conversation and just be next to her. I didn't have the urge to get her into bed. I just wanted to be near her, a departure from my norm. Was I getting soft, or was Jasmine that special? Probably a little bit of both. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, Rivers, how did you feel sitting there listening?
Well, that's an interesting question because We recorded that one time, I guess about a year ago, and we recorded it over and over and over and over again. But it's almost like I just heard it for the first time again. So that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do have a specific question, like your book, when this and this, even at this point when you're reading it, how did you determine whose voice best expressed what the book was about?
So it evolved. Well, we wrote it over 20 years. The story in the book takes place over a matter of a year and a half or so. But between multiple deployments to Afghanistan and, those things and military requirements, it just, that's why the book took so long to actually get into the world. But I think all of us, I think it's a bit, it would be really tough not to put some of yourself into various stories, right? And so it's there. The book is an amalgamation of friends we've met, us, our experiences, their experiences, our imagination. How much of it is us?
Mm-hmm. Well, ladies, thank you. I know we're going to be talking to you later on when we do our Q&A. Excited to see your face. Looking forward to hearing more from you. And with that, we're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to keep the show going. But ladies, thank you so very much. It's great to see you in person.
Available now from a Black perspective, The Blood. Words dance on the page and off. They tap and tumble, they slide and glide. They bop and break, they pop and lock. That's the kind of visual joy I experience reading from a Black perspective, The Blood. Elias Pierce has assembled an eclectic, inventive posse of wordsmiths for a collection that may be slender in volume but bountiful in pleasure. From the foreword written by James Earl Hardy, New York Times and Amazon best-selling author of the Evil Blues series. From a Black perspective, The Blood, available now from any of our featured authors. Rainbow Room Publishing presents Light and Darkness, The Human Tarkine War. One of 7 stories in From a Black Perspective, The Homeland. Join us during Homecoming. Sunday, February 23rd, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. for this visual storytelling experience and other great stories. On RRP Live. Now, back to our show.
Well, we're back. I hope you are enjoying the show. Right now, we have the sisters are kicking it off. Our next guest is someone who I've had the pleasure of talking to. She is a phenomenal woman. Dr. Tamara Hill is a versatile scholar with a strong academic background and a passion for the arts, literature, and education. My sister has been everywhere racking up those degrees. She has the receipts to show it. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Jackson State University, a Master of Arts in Political Science with a concentration in Urban Administration from the University of Central Oklahoma, a Master of Arts in English Literature from Grambling State University, and a Doctor of Philosophy from Clark Atlanta University, where she also pursued a secondary concentration in educational leadership. Dr. Hill's extensive body of work spans various publications, including contributions to Merge Literary Magazine, where she authored the insightful piece titled What Black Girl Advocacy on the Shy Looks Like. She's also a veteran contributor to this anthology series. Her contribution to this edition is a compelling 3-part series, For Perfect Sound Forever, an online music magazine focusing on the influence and impact of rap artists Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Nicki Minaj in the music industry. Queen, you are Black Girl Advocacy. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, and how are you? And thank you for having me.
Well, I'm doing well. I'm feeling full being in the presence of these strong people, artists, authors from my Black community. So what are you going to share for us today? And we look forward to hearing it.
I am going to share the Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, and Megan Thee Stallion Changing the Narrative of Sexual Empowerment in Female Hip Hop. While they're all 3 pieces, I'm going to just give you a short excerpt.
Okay.
Righty. The hip hop landscape in its early beginnings presented the lyrical thesis of the unknown poets and poetess that gave the world the truth about the urban ghettos, their stories, and societal ills that were their realities, and did not seem to fade away for them. Both males and females have dominated this genre, and as time progressed, mass media and the general population could not help but to notice those who rose to the top of the hip hop charts. Artists like Big Daddy Kane, A Tribe Called Quest, Notorious B.I.G., Tupac Shakur, 50 Cent, Jay-Z, Nas, N.W.A., Heavy D, Fat Joe, Big Pun, Snoop Dogg, Poor Righteous Teachers, and Eric B. and Rakim were some of the primary headlines in the rap game. Whereas for the women of rap, the names Queen Latifah, Salt and Pepper, Roxanne Shante, Da Brat, Rod Digga, Foxy Brown, MC Lyte, Yo-Yo, Little Kim, MC Trouble, Remy Ma, Missy Elliott, Gangsta Boo, and Money Love spit out their individual feminine contemplations and perspectives of urban existence whenever you turned on the radio. Their influences as far as style, personality, images, and lyrics changed the genre of rap and how it has developed, especially for women of color. Additionally, the hip-hop industry has been pretty much male-dominated, from the music engineers, managers, to producers and CEOs of major record labels. However, there have also been women who made strides in it, such as Sylvia Rhone, who is both the chair and CEO of Epic Records, which is owned by Sony. It is also a known fact that she is highly respected and regarded as the most prominent Black woman in the music industry. Nevertheless, for decades, the male rappers in the hip-hop industry and their lyrics have illustrated and dissected their sexual conquest and the type of women they prefer with regard to skin, color, body type, and or nationality. To illustrate this notion, there's an expert taken from kidcollegestaff.com with a very specific lyric with the song titled Redbone, 2012, where Lil Wayne collaborated with Eric Benet that Black women to view Wayne with disdain. Eric Benet's latest studio album, The One, features a track titled Redbone Girl that is causing a stir in social media, according to Color Lines. Color Lines alleges that Benet is promoting a white supremacist beauty standard with his track. The song ironically features hip-hop superstar Lil Wayne, who is no stranger to controversy over a particular topic on colorism. Many Black women were outraged over a particular line in How to Love Artist Raps on the track right above it. On the song, Wayne said, "Beautiful Black woman, bet that B look better red." Lil Wayne is saying through this line that a dark-skinned woman would be prettier if she were light complexion. In Redbone Girl, Wayne raps, "I like 'em light-skinned, lighter than a feather." Lil Wayne's lyrics from Redbone 2012 are just one example of a male rapper's preference for the type of skin tone that he prefers, because he wants his women to either be precisely red or light complexion. But he is not the only rapper that exemplifies and continues to perpetuate these beliefs in hip-hop. As a result, women are being fed subliminal messages through male rappers' music about the women they prefer in terms of body type, skin tone, sexuality, and their most attractive attributes. Traditionally and in turn, the hip-hop industry has provided these types of women via music videos as fantasies that convey, if you make it out of your hopeless situation, you too can have a bevy of beautiful women who are perfect in every way. But now, Nicki Minaj has become a prominent female rapper who is sexually brazen, and her video depictions of her music is unabashed, while taking control of her body by telling men, I no longer have to fit your standards to accept me. I am sexually empowered, and I will make my own choices for myself about the men I want. You will want me, whether I want you in return or not. Furthermore, male rappers' lyrics in comparison to female rappers have often been characterized as being their truth about their experiences, whether they're trapping in the hood, coming up hard, their sexual exploit, or previous gang life. There's no negative connotation associated with male rappers and their life before fame, because it's glamorized and is them making it out of their unfortunate circumstances, and they did what they had to do in order to survive. What is more, their lyrics are also a celebration of the male bravado and their multiple sexual conquests, because they rap about the number of women they can acquire or the look in women's eyes when they're giving them sexual pleasure in unimaginable ways. For example, listen to 50 Cent's Little Bit from 2005, wherein he says, all a nigga need is just a little bit. Not a lot, baby girl, just a little bit. But in contrast, when female rappers express their exploits with some of the same singular details, such as the attributes they want in their men or how they desire to be pleased, it seems to be problematic, despite them being headlines at the top of the hip-hop game, because societal standards declare that good and respectable women do not talk about such things. This is because Black women and women of color have been taught to suppress their sexuality, and if they participated in sexual escapades or sampled their choice of prospective suitors, like the 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins, they are then labeled and or called hoes. Consequently, this double standard for female rappers in hip-hop should not be the case and is extremely hypocritical. If it is conventional for male rappers to express their lifestyles and sexual conquest, then the same should be appropriate for female rappers in the hip-hop industry. In some, it is apparent that the female rappers do not fit hip-hop's narratives of staying in the background and having demure lyrics, but instead, they are demanding that their single, independent voices and sexual desires be acknowledged by society and anyone who listens to their music.
Often people just listen to the lyrics but don't get it. So,
Correct.
In your opinion, sisters are doing it. Women are breaking out the role, not only in music when you think about those, but who do you see continuing writing, continuing carrying this vanguard? People like Alexis Pauline Gum, or even what's her name, Amanda Gorman, who are doing it like through poetry. Do you see that the next vanguard?
Yes, I do. I see it as, especially in the time that we live in, that more women of color, and especially somebody like Amanda, she's carrying the torch. It may not be in hip hop, but she's carrying the torch of the words, because Black women are often forgotten about. We've been called the mules of the world. We do it all. And I think that we are tired of being characterized in one fashion when we have contributed to the society in multiple ways. And so those next young ladies are the vanguard. They are carrying the torch of our ancestors, the generations before us, those that are here now, and will continue to do so, because they're not being quiet. They're not going to sit in the background anymore.
Mm-hmm. And are you're including them as part of your study? You're finding that exciting, eh?
Yes, I am. I'm finding that as a part of what young people are relating to and seeing what they can do in this world. There are no limitations, regardless of the time we live in. There are really no limitations. They can do it all.
Well, Dr. Hill, we're looking forward to talking more with you as we go into the Q&A period later on in the show. But thank you so much for your words. You've really given all of us who just sort of like let music go in one ear and out the other something to think about. And with that, we're going to roll on into another commercial break.
The past. The year was 3034. Humankind had evolved a great deal since the 20th century, making numerous scientific advancements. Humanity had gone as far as to improve and adapt the biosphere projects, making life possible within them on the original 9 planets of the solar system.
9, including Pluto, after a much heated debate which resulted in reinstating its status as a planet. Our race lived on in the atmospheric domes of each world, similar to the conditions on Earth, despite the lack of oxygenated atmospheres, even with the scorching heat of Mercury and the harsh cold of Pluto. The domes each housed cities not too much more advanced than those of the 20th century, but easily 10 times as large as New York City of the same era. The colonies of each planet were quite prosperous, but there was little time to enjoy the fruits of our labor before it all on with the show.
Well, we are back, and it's good to be up at bat. I have the pleasure of introducing author Ken Compton, who hails from St. Louis, Missouri. Mr. Compton, how the hell are you today?
I am doing great, Wyatt. How are you?
I am doing great. You know, man, I love to read bios. I'm going to read yours, and I want to be just like you when I grow up. You know that?
I don't know about all that. I think you're doing great as you are.
I know all about that. So here we go. Ken Compton spent his formative years captivated by the imaginative worlds crafted by writers like Lois Duncan and Christopher Pike. As a graduate of Truman State University and the Long Ridge Writers Group program, his passion for mystery is deeply influenced by Sandra Brown, particularly her novel Chill Factor, which he counts as a personal favorite. Mr. Compton is drawn to stories that leave readers piecing together hidden clues and surprises, a theme that resonates in his own writing. Maybe channeling Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. A veteran contributor to this anthology series, Ken's future writing ambitions extend beyond novels and short stories to include theater plays and movie scripts. You can also find his works in the first issue of The new Black literary journal published by Dream Writer Inc. And so without further ado, I present Ken Compton. Ken, give us the title of your reading, its synopsis, and then just go for it.
All right. Well, thank you once again. And my thank you to Rainbow Room Publishing and Eddie Pierce and all of the other authors in the anthology series. I'm going to read the first half of my short story, Disclosed. The juicier part comes a little bit later, but here we go for the first half. Thurman took a swig of Corona and watched his best friend's reaction to the big news. Across from him, Jimmy's eyes widened, a smile creeping up to his face that mixed surprise with happiness. "So you taking that plunge, huh?" Jimmy asked, his tone a blend of curiosity and excitement. "Yes, sir." Jimmy's interest peaked further. "Have you brought the ring yet?" Thurman reached into his pocket and produced a 3-carat diamond ring. "I wanted Manny to have something special after 3 years of dating. She deserves it. And of course, you're the best man." "I hope so," Jimmy responded with a grin. "The three of us go way back to undergrad." He finished his beer and signaled for the waitress. "I'll get the next round." "I appreciate that, but let's not overdo it," Thurman said, recalling their rowdy past. "Remember what happened back in school when we had a few too many?" "Yeah, that was a wild night," Jimmy agreed, winking as he ordered 2 more Coronas. "So are you nervous?" "Nervous about what?" Thurman asked, a bit puzzled. "About asking Manny to marry you. Are you okay?" Thurman's gaze was distant. "I'm not nervous about asking her. There are a few things we need to discuss before I propose, though." "Like what?" Jimmy inquired, leaning in with interest. Things that I have the right to know before we become man and wife. Her credit score, for one thing. Jimmy's jaw dropped. Her what? Her credit score. You heard me. What does that have to do with anything? I have nearly perfect credit. If I'm going to get married, then I have the right to know how her credit will affect mine. What's going to happen when we apply for a mortgage? I don't want to get denied because of something that's on her credit. And how many credit cards does she have? How high are the interest rates? All of my interest rates are low. Why don't you just have her sign a prenup? Jimmy shook his head and looked past Thurman to the other end of the sports bar. Where are those Coronas? I don't want to take it that far. Most guys wonder if the sex is going to be good on the wedding night. The sex is awesome between us already, even with a condom. I can't wait to do it without one. So her credit is your only concern then, basically? If I didn't know better, I would say you barely know the woman you're about to propose to. I just think you have the proverbial cold feet well before it's time. I know Mandy well, but people change after marriage, Thurman countered. Jimmy clasped his hands and looked Thurman square in the face. Listen, do you love her? Of course. Then there's nothing to worry about. Jimmy, too many marriages have ended up in divorce court under that optimism. I want ours to last, and I think it's the little things that you don't discuss before the marriage that end up being big problems afterwards. And the stuff that I'm talking about needs to come out before we get married. Thurman didn't mention that Mandy had been laid off for 6 months and had been living off unemployment and credit cards. Though she had recently resumed working as an executive assistant, he was concerned her credit might have taken a hit. This isn't a good idea, Thurman. Lord only knows what this might bring from her. What harm could it do? I'm willing to disclose my private information to her if she wants it. It's up to you. I'm just scared that you're going to fuck it up. The waitress brought the beer. Just one more thing, Jimmy said to Thurman. He gave the waitress a 10. What if you don't get the answers you want? Well, then I'll have to ask myself if I'm ready to live my life with her, Thurman answered. The same goes for Mandy if she sees something in my information that raises a red flag. I doubt it, though. Well, we'll both know what we're up against going in. I pray it works out, said Jimmy. It will, I have no doubt. The two friends grabbed their Coronas and drank up. So there you have it. That is the first half of my story disclosed. Of course, the second half is the conversation that he has with Mandy, his hopefully soon-to-be fiance. So there you have it.
Mr. Compton, before I ask you a question, let me give you kudos because what I really like about your writing is that, of course, it's substantive, but also there are dashes of humor. And it's like the reader is a fly on the wall. They know what's going on. You give your writing such color and nuance, which is really great. Now, my question to you is this. You use dialogue as a means to give depth and nuance to your characters. So just how important is dialogue in your storytelling?
You know, I have to honestly say this is the first time that I've really used dialogue in this way. You know, because that's what the story is. You know, it's a conversation between a couple of people. So it was a bit of a challenge because I have to say the dialogue is still something that I'm learning, but it is very important, a strong tool for a writer to have in his toolbox. So still learning, but I hope I did the best I could with it, with this piece.
Well, you did. And we want to thank you for that piece. You'll be back a little bit later in the show for the Q&A, but Mr. Compton, great job. And we're going to a commercial break.
Coming soon from Rainbow Room Publishing. Kaleidoscope, the digital art magazine featuring various artists, creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and more. Kaleidoscope, expanding your definition of art. Black Label, produced by Tony Lavelle for B-Clan Productions. Let's get back to the show.
Hello, hello, hello. We're back. I hope that you are enjoying this as much as I am. I have the honor of introducing my sister, SENYAH HAYNES. SENYAH has recently crowned herself as Life Sampler Sensational. You know you got it, girl. A phrase she has coined to add a fresh coat of gloss and some luxury to the old adage, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. She's a woman who has countless interests and multiple passions. She has had the privilege to explore many of them personally and professionally, especially and more specifically the arts, youth development, and social justice. Those are three major pillars in her life and occupation. World travel, hey, that's my girl SENYAH. Her contribution, Woa Woo Woo, is a story about communication, something we all need to work on. Uncomfortable sometimes, unpredictable, and to some, incomprehensible. SENYAH, you look beautiful. And that purple queen, you are one of my heroes. I know Wyatt was talking about someone he wanted to grow up and be. Girl, I just want to hang in your shadow because you are a boss.
Thank you, Michelle. That says a lot coming from you.
So tell us what you have for us today.
So today I have an excerpt from my short story called Woa Woo Woo. So we'll just get into it. Okay. Glow and Melonia weren't actually twins. Yes, they were both born the same day and year, and certainly they shared a parent, but that parent wasn't maternal. No, these two women, who were often mistaken as twins in the more conventional sense, they were the spitting image of their father, hadn't shared a womb. What they had shared were mothers cut from the same cloth with unfortunate taste in men, or one in particular. One who quite literally may have impregnated them both on the same day, without a doubt the same week. So, about 40 weeks later, both girls made their debut on the same day in hospitals across town from each other. One at 1:02 a.m. and one at 6:39 p.m. The early bird, Glow, entered the world wailing like a siren, angry to be evicted so violently from her amniotic sanctuary. Melonia was born with what her great-grandmother, who was in attendance, called a veil over her eyes. And that child came in so quietly they had to keep checking to make sure she was alive. Shortly after they were born, Glow and Melonia's papa rolled to another city and presumably continued leaving broken hearts and babies in his wake. But as their hometown was the place of his own birth, and his mother, or Big Mama, still lived there, Glow and Melonia were able to develop quite a close relationship. Both of their single mothers were working women, and the free childcare that Big Mama offered couldn't be turned down. Thus, they became twins. And this veil that Melonia was purported to have been born with was more than just a notion. It was well known within close family circles that this little girl had the gift of extra sight. Glow had no choice but to tolerate it because of the close and frequent proximity to her father's kinfolk, her twin included, who spoke of paranormal happenings as casual topics at the dinner table. But it really never sat well with Glow, as her mother and all her maternal kin were the fire and brimstone, washed in the blood, devil-rebuking sort of Christians who couldn't be mixed up in that kind of business, holy, unholy as it was. But 2 days ago is what consumed Glow's thoughts now. Glow went to Big Mama's house to search for an heirloom she wanted to get appraised, and Melonia was sitting at the kitchen table eating some yellow cake and drinking a glass of milk. Ever since she could remember, Big Mama had made a yellow cake on the first Saturday of the month to go with Sunday dinner, and the twins would sneak downstairs and share a slice as soon as they determined that the house was asleep for the night. That missing slice come Sunday dinner became a family tradition. The first 3 times it happened, they got their butts beat. But when it happened the 4th time, Big Mama figured them girls must be slow, and she became quite tickled by it. From that day forth, instead of punishment, she became an accomplice. Before going to bed on cake baking nights, Big Mama would set out a saucer and 2 forks. Sometimes she'd set it on a doily. Once, she left 2 upside-down glasses and a note on the milk that read, "Drink me." The girls got a particular kick out of that one. Overcome with nostalgia, because Big Mama had been gone for years, Glow got a saucer and a knife and went to work. This, of course, was a store-bought cake with a plastic top sitting on the counter, but the sentiment was the same. Once she had her own slice and glass of milk, she slid a chair next to her sister's. "What's up, Buttercup?" Melonia was eating rather mechanically, completely disconnected from her chewing, as she remained lost, deep in thought. Then she spoke as though they'd been conversing for half an hour already. "You know, when I went to Uncle Mac's house the other day, I swear his kitchen was about 20% larger." Oh, shit, Glow thought. No dinner and a movie, straight to the mind fuck. It kind of took my breath away because, you know, it's Uncle Mac. Her eyes started to water, and she sniffled before she took another sip of her milk. Glow started drawing circles on her icing with her fork, slowly and methodically, reverting to the 10-year-old she was once reverting to the 10-year-old she was when she was first told that the kitchen they were currently sitting in looked bigger. It had so much space. A little choked up, Glow knew this couldn't be an extended visit. She scraped her chair against the linoleum as she stood, threw her half-eaten slice of cake in the garbage, and washed her dishes. She wanted to run out of the house and slam the front door, for the fear to disintegrate like a mirage as she ran far, far away. But alas, she seldom allowed herself those kinds of theatrics. She simply dried her hands on the towel hanging from the stove, kissed her sister on the top of the head, and with a half-hearted hug, she said, "It was good talking to you, sis. I'll catch you later." Then she left the house. When Glow and Melonia were 10 years old, Glow walked in on Melonia one day, acting even more peculiar than was her general set point of strange. Melonia was walking around Big Mama's kitchen slowly, staring at everything as though she had been blind all her life until just a few moments before, and the sight she took in wasn't making sense to her brain. Her face registered a mixture of confusion and amazement as she touched things tentatively, countertops and appliances alike. First, Glow stood looking at her, but when she soon realized none of this was for show, not for Melonia's entertainment or her own, she asked the only question there was to ask. "What is wrong with you?" Glow said with mild irritation. Don't you see it? Melonia asked in surprise. The kitchen's bigger. I don't know how, but it has so much more space. Did Big Mama take something out? Glow stood there, watching her sister wander around with her newborn wonder, and sighed. Why? Just why? Glow thought. I'm serious, she said. Did Big Mama move this counter back? Or look at the sink. Did she do something to the sink? Of course she hadn't. Nobody had, and Glow clearly saw this. Exasperated, she left her sister to stew in her own dismay and marched down the hall straight to Big Mama's room. Big Mama! She yelled. Then, as she arrived at her destination, Melonia's in the kitchen talking about it's bigger and she acting strange again. Big Mama's look of alarm arrested her mid-footstep. Bigger, Big Mama said slowly. What you mean bigger? What'd she say exactly? She said it has so much more space. Self-satisfied that she told on her sister, as though this would somehow be the thing to make Melonia stop acting crazy, Glow felt triumphant for a moment. It took little more than a dozen words to turn her victory into utter defeat. Sit down, child, Big Mama said, nearly in a whisper. Looks like I ain't about to be with you for too much longer. Obediently, Glow sat and listened to her grandmother as she summoned the ancestors. She told her the story of her own great-grandmother, Sadie, who also had the sight and knew when folks were about to pass on to the other side. She suddenly saw more space, Big Mama said. Space that loved one used to take up with theyself while they was amongst the living. Glow burst into tears, but was a captured audience and listened to everything her Big Mama had to tell her that day, which was quite a lot. She never told Melonia about that conversation. Within a week, Big Mama was dead. It instantly became clear what extra space meant to Melonia. Nobody had to tell her once Big Mama passed. And likewise, she instantly became more conscientious with whom she shared that realization. Big Mama and Uncle Mac had, between Big Mama and Uncle Mac, it had happened to her 16 more times. Family, friends, the homeless man who'd set up camp under the overpass on her route to school. She was very clear about what it meant. That's it.
Wow. SENYAH, wow. Your writing entertains, but that piece speaks to many aspects of the human condition. What do you draw upon to give such relatable authenticity?
Life. I would have to say that almost all of my writing is just sourced from just, walking around this world observing things. This story in particular actually was inspired from a conversation I had across the fence in my backyard with my neighbor. And she literally told me that her father was about to transition. How do you know that? I asked, and then she told me about the space. And to me, that was so poetic that this woman, when someone is about to transition, she literally sees more space in their dwelling. It was just really poetic. And so I was like, and I told her at that time, and I often do when I'm inspired by something I hear, I'll say, I might have to write about that one. And I did.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, SENYAH, I look forward again, Q&A in a little bit. And right now we're going to take it back for another commercial, and then my brother Wyatt will be right with you.
Thank you.
back to our show.
I is back. I is. First of all, Michelle, you are one bad mama jamma. I have to get that in there. Okay, here we go. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the uber talented and the hardest working man in indie lit, Mr. ESP, Eddie S. Pierce Jr. He's the founder, CEO, and mastermind behind the venerable and influential Rainbow Room Publishing, RRP. How the hell are you, Mr. Pierce?
Man, I'm making it. I'm feeling good. And man, I just thank you all for what you all have done thus far. And I look forward to what more we can bring to the people.
Listen, we loved you, and I definitely want to be just like you when I grow up.
High praise.
Okay. Now, look, as I stated when I introduced Ken Compton, I love reading bios. You know what I'm saying? So here is yours. Mr. Pierce earned a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Chicago State University, home of the world-renowned Gwendolyn Brooks Writing Center. In 2011, he simultaneously released his first self-published work titled Love Something Infinite, and then he launched Rainbow Room Publishing, LLC. Then in 2013, his second novel, Love from Behind, followed. Love Changes, his third novel, and the Rainbow Room Publishing Guide are amongst the author's most recent publications. Now, that ain't all. In addition to producing more titles, they're pursuing numerous other literary and artistic ventures. Eddie oversees the company's multiple publishing services. And in an effort to provide more opportunities for new authors and professionals in the creative arts, he is expanding the company's offerings. So without further ado, I present Eddie S. Pierce Jr. Eddie, are you there?
I'm here, brother. I'm here.
Give us the title of your reading and its synopsis, and then just go for it.
All right, brother. Thank you for that amazing intro. So my piece, Light and Darkness, the Human Tarkine War. Quick, trying to stay brief. Author's note, this is something that I wrote when I was about 12, 13 years old. It was my first attempt at writing something of a significant length, and it goes to my first love when it comes to literary genres, science fiction. And so wanted to do something a little bit special for you all. And so I'll just say this, hold on to your butt cheeks. It's going to be awesome.
Prologue. Stryker awakens with a throbbing headache. When he attempts to move, he finds his legs chained to the ground. He turns to his side and sees the others in similar restraints, but their hands are also bound. "Can you get free?" asks Aurora. "No," he groans in response. "This headache makes it impossible for me to concentrate on using my armor. Can't you use your powers to break through those restraints?" "No," answers Nexus, looking down to the manacles encasing their arms up to the elbows. "I believe they are made of some strange metal that negates our abilities." "Well, we made a vow to fight beside you until the end," states Ursa. "We told you that we would help you as best we could. It looks as if this is the end of our promise." Even Iris honored it. Iris is so immersed in their certain doom that she misses Ursa's questionable comment. The ground under their feet trembles as the giants walk over to them. "The Emperor has ordered the rebels executed," says one of them to the others. All of the heroes, including Iris, look up to the giants in defiance as they charge their weapons. They fire. "No!" The past. The year was 3034. Humankind had evolved a great deal since the 20th century, making numerous scientific advancements. Humanity had gone as far as to improve and adapt the biosphere projects, making life possible within them on the original 9 planets of the solar system. 9, including Pluto, after a much heated debate, which resulted in reinstating its status as a planet. Our race lived on in the atmospheric domes of each world, similar to the conditions on Earth, despite the lack of oxygenated atmospheres, even with the scorching heat of Mercury and the harsh cold of Pluto. The domes each housed cities not too much more advanced than those of the 20th century, but easily 10 times as large as New York City of the same era. The colonies of each planet were quite prosperous, but there was little time to enjoy the fruits of our labor before it all began. The head council of Earth received a call from the leaders of Pluto, warning that an alien race known as the Tarkine was attacking them. At first, it was hard to believe this because the Tarkine had come to our solar system long before, barely surviving the complete extinction of their race. They escaped the explosion of their own homeworld with little more than their lives. If not for the fact that they had befriended humanity, their escape would have been in vain. Prior to our encounter with the Tarkine, there had been no contact with any extraterrestrials. Due to numerous complications with space exploration, the practice was at first widely abandoned. Prohibition of the venture followed as a result of nearly all deep space exploration vessels disappearing without a trace. The Celestial Council, the collective governing body of the 9 planets, had allowed the small alien race to take up residence in an asteroid belt near the edge of the Milky Way. At first, the coexistence of our two races was viewed as impossible. But in time, the vast majority of humankind became quite comfortable with the presence of the green-scaled, hairless Tarkine. It was equally as difficult for them to get used to our language, food, and social norms amongst the host of traditional human habits. This complication, however, was to be expected. As their population grew, the Tarkine gradually took up residence throughout the planets of the solar system, living side by side with humanity for decades. That was before they turned on those who gave them shelter and food in their time of need. The general consensus was that our alien neighbors had gotten greedy and desired more than humanity offered. What was it they wanted, though? Humanity had done away with systems of economy and social classes long ago. Everyone received everything they needed equally and according to necessity. This equality wasn't withheld from the Tarkine in any shape, form, or fashion. Their betrayal was a great shock because of the passive, gentle nature they had all previously displayed at any given time. What could have provoked them to such an action? Many believed that their initial friendship and acts of peace were mere distractions while looking for a soft spot in humanity's back. Perhaps the most puzzling question was how they managed to construct an army, a conquering force which totaled well beyond hundreds of thousands of cyber-bionetically enhanced Tarkine soldiers that surpassed the defenses of the 9 planets combined. The Tarkine had nothing when they arrived. At any rate, they systematically conquered each world, imprisoning or enslaving the humans who survived the conflict in a war lasting 9 months. At the same time, the Celestial Council authorized the formation of an elite fighting squadron and stationed it in the asteroid belt civilization that the Tarkine had abandoned. Thousands of brave young soldiers volunteered. Their mission: attack the new regime being constructed by the Tarkine after their inevitable victory and capture their leader. The Tarkine Emperor, as he fashioned himself, took Mercury and established it as the capital of the new empire because of its secure location in the time of war. While the council carried out its plans for the secret fighting squadron, the Tarkine found them out and rushed to surround the asteroid belt, demanding their surrender. The hastily but adequately trained troops came out fighting despite their numbers, which were few compared to the Tarkine army. The fierce fighters of the human squadron wielded considerable firepower and flew as if they were born just for that day. In the middle of the battle, the explosion of a nearby comrade struck a single ship piloted by one young but experienced Philip Stryker. Inside, he was thrown to the floor and knocked unconscious as the ship hurled off course. The battle raged on. No one noticed as his ship sailed out of the solar system. First contact. Sometime later, far from the fight, the ship roars on. Suddenly, an alarm goes off. Temperature rising, warns the ship's computer. The heat and the sweat on his bronze-colored brow awaken Stryker. He looks up in time to be blinded by the brilliant light of a white sun. All of the sirens are wailing as the pilot rushes to the ship's controls. He manages to steer it away from the sun. Computer, shut off all alarms, he commands, and there's complete silence. Computer, give current location. Unknown, it replies. Stryker stares through the observation window in amazement at the white sun, planets, and a host of unfamiliar stars that appear to twinkle in sequence. Where in the universe? He exclaims, looking to the 3 planets, each appearing to have atmospheric conditions similar to that of Earth, as evidenced by the presence of clouds, land masses, and bodies of water, all of which contribute to each planet's distinct color. The nearest and largest resonates a bright aqua. The slightly smaller second planet appears a dull pink color with momentary flashes of what can only be described as purple streaks of lightning. A glowing green aura surrounds the third and final planet. Computer, damage report. Power levels low, running on auxiliary, shields at 23%, scanners damaged, life support failing. Of course. On top of everything else, life support would have to be failing, he groans sarcastically. I'm literally lost in space, in a ship on its last leg, and I'm hardly a mechanic. Stryker takes a second to vent his frustration in a huff of air and gets a hold of himself. Computer, reroute all power from secondary systems to the thrusters. Stryker then directs the ship to the closest planet and puts it in a stationary orbit. Fair climate, life-sustaining atmosphere, and many humanoid life forms detected, reports the computer describing the planet. Strong magnetic and gravitational field emitting from and surrounding the planet. Well, this appears to be my safest bet out of the 3, he thinks to himself. Besides, I'll hopefully only be here long enough to attempt to make repairs, or worst case scenario, I'll have to find a way to make contact with the fleet and wait for rescue. But it's going to take the last of the ship's power reserves to break through, he thinks, looking at the power levels emitted by the planet. He climbs into a spacesuit resembling a streamlined suit of armor, equipped with thrusters and laser weapons in the wrists. He goes to the escape chute and from there gives his last orders. Computer, land the ship by any means necessary, but in the event of a crash, open the escape chute and eject pilot. Affirmative, the computer answers while initiating the landing. As the ship descends into the atmosphere, the magnetic and gravitational fields push back. Soon the thrusters give out and the ship is tossed away. Stryker is rendered unconscious once again as the ship hurls towards the second planet. Down below on the planet, one of the beings, resembling a human woman, at that moment is in an open field surrounded by 3 life-size mechanic constructs similar to robots. The 3 suddenly come alive and rush to attack the alien. She clenches her fists and 4 purple gems, one on her forehead, another on the right arm, the waist, and the last on her left thigh, all light up and surround her in a dull pink aura. No, she sighs as the aura disperses. Not yet. She drops to the ground and rolls in between 2 of the constructs, avoiding their advance. They regroup, turn, and fire lasers, which she easily dodges with more acrobatic tumbles and flips until she finds herself cornered once again. Very clever, she laughs, applauding her enemy. Just then, her eyebrows arch in an expression of confusion and she peers upward. What is happening up there, she thinks. Constructs fire. Her mind returns to the matter at hand in an instant. She clenches her fists and the gems glow. The pink aura reappears, shielding her from the lasers. Guess I have to end this practice session early, she says, raising her hands. She brings them together in a clap that gives off a burst of light. The constructs shatter in its wake. She cautiously looks around before raising her hands, summoning the pink aura again and taking off into the sky. Higher up, beyond her sight, Stryker's ship is crashing into the atmosphere of strange pink clouds. All of a sudden, a purple bolt of lightning strikes the ship. Stryker, still unconscious, is ejected. He is hardly a safe enough distance when the ship explodes. He continues in a free fall to the ground. The alien woman continues her flight upward, dodging flaming, falling metal debris. What manner of creature is that, she wonders, catching sight of a metallic humanoid form plummeting past her. She turns and dives after it. When she gets close enough, she extends the aura, engulfing the creature as well. Ah! She groans, discovering that it is too heavy. The metal structure resumes its fall with her in tow. There's a person inside, she exclaims. As the ground rushes up to meet them, she looks for a means to open the metal shell. Finally, she finds a latch, which frees the inner creature. She contracts the aura around the two of them, allowing the outer shell to fall away as she and her newfound discovery fly away.
And there you have it, folks. That is my piece. I hope you enjoyed the extra visuals. And back to you, Wyatt.
Eddie. Let me tell you something. I had no idea that you was going to do a visual presentation. You are an overachiever. What is your problem?
Ooh, I'm having a couple of problems today, but we're going to talk about that at another time.
I'm just pulling your leg. I wanted your reaction. So, but anyway, that was absolutely, that was such a pleasant surprise. It was awesome. I can tell you put so much work and care into that. So here is my question for you. Many writers express themselves strictly through their writing, but you are very comfortable in front of the camera. So Eddie, how do you see the future of visual storytelling in the evolution of publishing?
Well, man, that's a good question. You know, for me, and I can imagine it'll be the same for other people, that, you know, we are trying to stand out. We're trying to get more. We're trying to entertain, inspire, educate, all those things. But at the same time, we're looking at, even as I think about how the visual came about, we're looking at what we're capable of doing in the moment. And so quick nod to Adobe Photo, what is it called? Adobe Stock. That's where I primarily got a lot of the imagery and that sort of thing. And please know that, you know, it's licensed, that sort of thing. I'm using it only as a presentation. I'm not selling a quote unquote movie. It's just a visual aid in a sense. But I feel that more of us are going to be looking at those different tools and expanding our ability to tell great stories, honestly.
Wow. Eddie, thank you so much for that. You'll be back in our Q&A a little bit later, but right now we're going to have a commercial break.
on with the show.
All right, family. So we're back after that brief intermission and the Diana Ross wardrobe change. Thank you all for sticking with us. And we're moving into one of my favorite parts of this whole presentation, the Q&A, an opportunity for you, as you see across, scrolling across the bottom, the banner across the bottom, the marquee. This is an opportunity for you to type in your questions, your comments, your well wishes for the audience. And so just as a quick reintroduction, I'm going to bring everybody up so you can remember who was present, and then we'll flow into the Q&A. So as a reintroduction, once again, we have Ms. SENYAH HAYNES, we have Mr. Ken Compton, we have Dr. Tamara Hill, we have life and writing partners NAOMI and Rivers, and we're joined by our amazing co-host, man. Thank y'all. Y'all have no idea. Y'all are holding this down, you as well as the authors and presenters, Miss Michelle Elizabeth Brown and Mr. Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Now, for the sake of not getting too confused here, we're going to bring everything down. As I have a question for the individual artists and presenters, we're going to bring them up. But first and foremost, we're going to pick up the stream with a question from Wyatt. He has a couple of things that he's been thinking about for me, and kind of give us, our starting point for questions. So whenever you're ready, Wyatt, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Here is my question for you. Okay, you often speak of inspiration from the Harlem Renaissance. Did this color how you envisioned the trilogy ending with the Homeland unfold, and who from that era most inspired you?
Ooh, okay, brother. That's the thing with being writers. You can write some great questions. Oh, man. The Harlem Renaissance, real quick, trying to put it all in a nutshell. I look back at that time, and I look at learning about that time as this just amazing display of the power of us as Black people, particularly African Americans, but not limited to those of us brought to or born on these shores. It was where we were just, in a lot of respects, just expressing our reality, expressing our trials, our triumphs. And I think the response by and large, and actually I just read about this in my research, the Harlem Renaissance was said to be a couple of things, one of which was that it was meant to be, not meant to be, but it was in a sense the grandfather of the civil rights movement. And it was also the first time that Black people on this continent, at least, collectively looked up and said, hey, you know what? We pretty bad. And they learned it in a lot of respects because of the exposure they had from the art that came from within our own community. And then, like I said, the idea of the civil rights movement, and for anybody that really pays attention to that, the civil rights movement, it was never just about Black people, much like the Harlem Renaissance. It was targeted to us first. The benefits ideally were for us first. But everything, if you look at history, when it came to gay rights, when it came to women's rights and some things of that nature, it was modeled after how the Harlem Renaissance and then the civil rights movement, which was largely about African Americans, was conducted. And if you look at even today, what's going on with the political situation, a lot of what these people are doing is what we did way back when. And so, all of those are the things that inspired me, that sense of community, that sense of how we could impact the world in a better way and in a big way, using our God-given talents is what inspired me. That's honestly how I get to this thing of wanting community, wanting to work with community, wanting to work with amazingly talented individuals who were in some shape, form, or fashion impacting lives.
Thank you. That was a thoughtful, impactful answer. Wow. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
Michelle, let's go with you. Any questions for you for the panel?
For you?
For the panel.
Oh, for the panel. Well, I spoke with Naomi Rivers, and I'd like to ask him another question. Okay. You guys work together. I mean, you're life partners. You work together. You wrote this book. Do you ever see you each going off and maybe writing your own separate book? And then if you had your own separate book, would you be able to come back and maybe even revisit this story, working together?
Go ahead, Naomi.
I love that. Ooh, that was a fun, right? If you ever saw one, will we come back as a writing team? Absolutely. We have a second book called tentatively Why Not Us that we expect to publish this year at some point. So yes, we are working together. I do think, however, that we could also publish separately at some point. Both of us have had, varied careers, whether it was military, in another life, I'm, a healthcare provider. And so I think just given everything that's going on, as Eddie said earlier politically, I think we could offer some information, some words about leadership, about healthcare, about standing up for yourself and advocating related to both of those subjects. I think we could publish some additional information, some additional books, novels, guidelines, self-help, if you will. So I do think we could both go in separate directions and still work together. I do.
What about you, Rivers?
No, I agree. I think we do work well together. I mean, we've been together for over 2 decades, and so we have figured out that we can work together, as well as not just writing, but other creative pursuits in selling various, other creative things, note cards and tote bags and things. But I think we mentioned this to you before, Michelle, that, Naomi does the sort of the structure and kind of comes up with the stories, and then I put the sauce on it. And so we figured out that that's kind of how we work well together. And so in terms of crafting more stories and novels and things like that, sure, we will work together. And, whether it becomes like Naomi said, there's another novel coming out, but the whether or not we do another full novel after that remains to be seen.
Well, we look forward to that next novel, your next project, and see for Naomi Rivers. I had to put you on the hot seat, Rivers, because you've been so quiet.
All right, thank you for that quick Q&A. I have a question here that was fielded in advance, and I'm going to ask each of the authors to take it in turn, and I'll actually, kind of answer it myself first. 1 second here. How do you think the ongoing evolution of AI will impact your craft? This is a question that I know that I've gotten quite a bit in the sense of, what do I think of AI? Is it helpful? Is it harmful? That sort of thing. And to put it as succinctly as possible in the moment, I believe that AI is pretty much a tool like anything else in a lot of respects. I mean, it can do more things than other tools, what have you, but in the general sense, it's a tool. And I feel that if the technology is approached, with human values, human morals, God help us what those may be at any given point in time, but ultimately that it's being used for the betterment of all people or as many people as possible, I think it's a good thing. I just always have the concern about ownership. Going back to the example of my visual storytelling piece for Light and Darkness, as I mentioned, I used a combination of media, honestly, but you may even notice somebody familiar in the silhouettes. But I used a lot of things that I found in Adobe stock. There were images, videos, that sort of thing. And the only reason, honestly, that I even used it was because I said, well, I'm not selling a movie. If I was making a movie, it'd be a totally different thing. But because I was using it in a sense as a visual aid to help me tell the story, that's, why I use it. And I can see where some of that stuff appears to be AI generated, or I can imagine where AI might even reach out into the webs, the interwebs, and snatch down those images. So by and large, I'm saying that I think it's something that is here to stay. We got to figure out how to regulate it. We got to figure out how to use it. We got to figure out how to use it to serve the most people as much as possible. And I feel that in the end, under the ideal circumstances, it can be a great tool for authors and creatives in general. But like I said, we want to get a bit of feedback on this question from all of the authors, and just going to go according to what's going on my screen. Ken Compton, your brief opinions, however brief, on the subject of AI in art.
I think you said it best. It is a tool that we all are still learning, something that can definitely be used to help. I don't think it hurts anything, but you took the words really pretty much out of my mouth. It is something that I have used in other areas, things that I will be bringing to the forefront here very soon. But AI is something that I think is great. I don't see it being harmful at all. But of course, there is that idea of ownership. There's a lot more that we're still figuring out with it. So, hopefully it's something that will continue to evolve. We can all kind of tap into and use it to make ourselves even better as artists.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Hill.
Yes. I guess it's twofold for me. I think it could be a good tool, and at the same time, I am concerned about my students using it in the wrong way. I want my students to learn how to critically think and not depend on a computer system. And so I think while it can be constructive to help us as educators or as writers, I do want my students to learn how to use it in a constructive way, because what is happening is that where we had pen and paper and chalkboards to figure out math problems, and we had the diagram synthesis, now students are just putting math problems into AI and they're getting the answers. I was at the conference last summer at Calculator Resource Network, and that was one of the things that my math colleague argued about, is that she can give them a problem, and instead of them sitting there trying to figure it out, they'll just ask AI what the answer is. And that's not helpful, because you see it when you go to a Walmart or McDonald's and you give a cashier who's 16, 17, 20 bucks and say, okay, I need $10. The meal came to 10.05 and they're struggling, right? So I think that it has both good and bad parts, but we have to learn how to navigate it and make sure that our future generations don't become dependent on it. And that's my take on it.
Appreciate it. I would give some follow-up, but we've talked about it and y'all heard my spiel already. So we will move on. SENYAH HAYNES.
Oh wow! I hate to be the lone wolf here, but I saw the Terminator. No, but
Skynet. Right.
But seriously, of course, absolutely, it's a tool, and I think if nothing, humans have shown their extreme capacity to abuse tools, and make the world a worse place. So, what I really think about AI is right now, it's lovely, it's newer for the masses, we're figuring it out, and it can do some really fun things. As an artist, I'm already very aware of how it's impacting every aspect of what I do creatively, as a voiceover artist, as an actress, as a writer, as a visual artist. I could literally be replaced by AI in all of those fields quite easily. What I think, if I forecast, I think that it is going to, it's fun now. I think it's going to get much worse before it gets better, but I do think at the end, human thought, human capital, the creativity that is actually sourced from human beings is going to be at a premium. I think that first we're going to dive, but then I think our stock is going to go up, and people or entities are going to want the quote unquote real McCoy. Black history reference. Anyways, but you know what I mean? I think that human, I think that artwork sourced from human energy, human heart, will prevail eventually. But it's going to be a fun ride.
I agree. It's going to be some ups and some downs. Let's let Naomi and Rivers take that one as well.
I think you all have already said it. It's helpful. It is a tool. But again, when we started using computers, it was garbage in and garbage out. Mm-hmm. So we need to also check to make sure the information that's coming out is accurate. It can be helpful, to help write an initial outline for something, but it doesn't take the place of the nuanced writing, the storytelling, the interactions between the humans and that dialogue. I don't think it's the same.
And I agree, and I think I want to pick up what SENYAH was putting down. It's the soul of it all that. Unless you feed it, because the large language is based on these large language models, right? And oftentimes it's those language models don't represent us, right? And so the human aspect needs to be able to creatively think about what you need this thing to say. Is this thing that's spitting back at you? Is it true? Is it realistic? Does it SENYAH kind of touched on this, the fact that, if you put in something for images, the hands may not be right. So, and the eyes are looking all crazy. So you still need that human element. And even if you're teaching an AI how to do your scheduling, all those kinds of things, you got to make sure it makes sense for you, So there's still that human element. And I think, and Dr. Hill brought it up, the students and humans need to be able to know how to think and know how did it arrive at certain things. And so unless you know where you're going, AI, it can give you an outline, but you still need to be able to think about it and put your spin on it.
Excellent responses. We got some more questions here. Let's move on to White.
Wonderful. This is for Ken. This is a great question for you. I love asking this question. Let's say you are creating this elaborate dinner party and you can invite 3 deceased authors from the last century, the 20th century. Which 3 authors would you invite? Why would you invite them? And what would you guys talk about?
Okay, I'm sorry, Wyatt. I'm having just a little bit of trouble with the audio. I think I understood what you were saying as far as having a dinner party and inviting 3 authors. If you can go ahead again.
Right. Oh, sure, no problem. At a dinner, let's say you have a dinner party. You can invite 3 deceased authors from the 20th century. Who would those deceased authors be? Why would you invite them? And what would you guys talk about?
Following along the Harlem Renaissance, I would invite Zora Neale Hurston to the dinner party. Mm-hmm. I believe James Baldwin would add an interesting element to it. And there's another author that I can't think of. I know he was a critic of Zora. I can't think of his name, but I would invite him too. And the reason is because, I know that the particular author whose name I cannot think of, he had differences with Zora's writing. And if I was the dinner host, I would just ask, well, why do you think your art, who are you to dictate the art of someone else, what they bring to the forefront, how they tell their stories. You know, I know we as African Americans, we've all been through things, struggles, but you know, we don't have to let that reflect in everything that we do. You know, we can write about happy times or better times. Thank you, Naomi. Richard Wright is the author that I could not think of. I would invite him and just talk about those differences. You know, I think it's something to be said about letting people be free. And so in their versus having them, you know, pigeonholed into what you think that art should be or what it should reflect. I think that could be a very interesting conversation. So yeah, those are my three authors that I would invite. Actually, if I could have a bigger party, there's some other people that I would invite too, but those three, just to get that discussion going, because I have to honestly say, I disagree with Richard Wright, his critique of Zora. You know, she's free to write what she wants. It doesn't have to be about the struggle of the African American. Now, if you want that to be your art and let that be in every word you speak out, then hey, go ahead. But don't critique somebody else like that because they view the world a little bit differently. So there we have it.
Good answer. Thank you for that.
And, you know, I was just going to jump in there real quick because this is something that's been on my mind and my heart for a while. And this is not a correction. This is just an addition. But yeah, Richard Wright, you know, one of the people that honestly greatly influenced my love of literature and my decision to write and my decision to do it with a mix of autobiography and fiction. But yeah, much like Ken said, from what I understood from the research, is that Richard was very much, he was one of the bigger leaders, I would guess you would say, especially for the literature portion of the Harlem Renaissance. But he was very stuck on the idea that everything had to be about the cause in a very specific way. It had to speak to our trials. It had to speak to how we overcame them. And the thing with Zora, I think for me and what I learned looking at from different critics is that she, especially when you think about the piece, at least that I know, Their Eyes Were Watching God, if I'm getting the right title correct. She spoke to a place, much like this Homeland that I'm trying to emulate for us. She spoke to a place where Black people were completely autonomous. They ran their city. They had their own sense of economy. They had very little need of the outside world. And as a result, she lived in a space where she didn't encounter racism in the same way, to the same degree that the majority of the people that Richard Wright wanted involved, literature-wise, were writing from it, because she would not, you know, in a sense, capitulate. And she wrote a lot of other stuff. It's worth noting. She wrote a lot of other stuff, a lot of things that speak to our magic word, perspective. That wasn't her perspective, but she still gave us a Black perspective. But the sad truth is that, yes, because she did not go along with the grain, she was quite literally blackballed. And it's arguable that her work might have done that much more in her lifetime, and very recently after her lifetime, if not for Richard Wright. I've seen a number of things where they talked about the idea of uncovering her works after she had already passed on. And so thank you, Ken, for speaking to that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent question. Going to move on to, yes, thank you. I see Rivers. We got a couple of notes in the background. I won't go into all of them, but Rivers talked about as Eatonville, Florida. Thank you, because I knew it was Florida. I couldn't think of the exact city, but yeah, that was her experience. That was her experience, and even the idea, and I love that too, that it's Rivers that spoke to this. I love the idea too that your stories, and one of the reasons I love your inclusion in the piece, and I'll give you some more time to talk later, was that, you know, you didn't speak to the things that everybody kind of expects when they talk about, the Black experience, right? Actually, I'm gonna bring them up because it makes more sense. You didn't speak to, the trials. You didn't speak. Now, that's not to say. Let me back up. There are, from my experience, and I'll let you clarify. From my experience with your work and what you've done, you've shown very real Black experiences as Black women, experiences as Black women who love other Black women. One of the things that I feel is sorely lacking in our representations of art is the love story. And I think Naomi said it best in one of our previous discussions. We have love stories.
We
all
do
across
indeed.
the Black spectrum. And I feel that what Zora did and what you all are doing is very important, because we can't just look at the hard stuff. We have to see the good stuff to aspire to. Anything you want to add to this discussion? Zora, the perspectives, showing the love story. Anything you want to add right now?
Well, and you're right. I mean, if oftentimes and that we heard it said this way, right? So oftentimes we can believe, vampires falling in love and dragons and all the rest of it, but somehow, it becomes like this extraordinary thing if we show Black love in all of its forms. And so I just think, largely in this country anyway, people lack imagination, right? And so they, for those of us that have experienced love and love on a daily basis, both from our partners and our family, and that it's not all trauma and drama and all the rest of it. It could just be simply, love sitting on the back of your porch, drinking coffee with the people you love, listening to the birds. I mean, it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out, complicated thing.
And so, Eddie, that's why I appreciate, even on the back of the Homeland, you reference Toni Morrison, and to say, tell the story that you want to see, tell the story that you want to hear, because it's not always out there, but doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Thank you. And to give credit where credit is due, that was actually Wyatt who wrote his review of the Homeland, who referenced Toni Morrison. So just another credit to that brother's brilliance. Speaking of brilliance, we're going to bring Michelle back up with a question for Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill, I love that you have dug deep. And Black women, particularly in Michigan and music, have been often overlooked. And we know that some of the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, there are people whose shoulders they stand on, who aren't acknowledged, like Big Mama Thornton. I mean, Black women have been the torchbearers and in music, and often it was taken away from them. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. That was not right. Elvis Presley.
Okay. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It was not Elvis Presley. So in your studies and as you go on that, who are some of these people that as you look back and you can see, this person opened the door for these young women to be bold and outrageous and doing their own thing and claiming it?
Let's see. I would think Ella Fitzgerald. There was a lot of racism, and I read a story about how she was going to perform. She wanted to perform some particular place, and she wasn't allowed to because she was Black. And so Marilyn Monroe and she were friends, and Marilyn said, "Well, I'll just buy the seats," and that's what ended up happening, so that people could actually enjoy her. I would think now one of my favorite Black icons would have to be Eartha Kitt, because she came up really hard. But when I was a kid, she was. I love Halle, nothing against Halle, but Eartha Kitt was the first Black Catwoman. Like, she made Batman quiver, right? Mm-hmm. And she would purr and all that. And then when she ended up in, was it Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. I laughed because I was like, this is the same woman I looked at as a kid and did not understand all that she had accomplished and done. And she was, you know, in the movie, she goes, Marcus, Marcus. And so for me, when I look at icons like that, and I look at the current women who are out and being brazen in their own ways, I believe that a lot of that inspiration comes from them, because those women had to really go through some difficult barriers to get where they were, even to be seen or to be heard, you know, to walk down the street someplace and be served a meal. And Diana Ross, even, that was my mom's and my dad's generation. But I read the stories how when they came down south, a lot of times traveling with Motown, they weren't allowed to use the public facilities. They had to find places, Black places to eat, and just to be able to go to the bathroom. So even if you look at Diana Ross and the Supremes and Marvelettes and that generation, they are some of the women that the women in this generation are sitting on the backs of, because they went through so much just to be seen and heard.
You know, I also would throw in there Josephine Baker. I mean,
Yes,
Josephine Baker, when they talk about how they dress, but her and the banana, I mean, you know, like
the bananas.
She had to leave here to go and just be authentic.
Be authentic. And then she ended up getting the medal for her service in the war. And a lot of people don't know that she wore, I believe it was secret codes or some kind of, I don't know if it was codes, I can remember, but they wrote it on the inside of her bustier, and she entertained the men so much crossing the lines that nobody paid attention. And she was passing on pertinent information and ended up getting a medal towards the end of her life. And a lot of people don't know that. So you're right. Her with the banana leaves, that was something different and, as they would say, exotic. But she was a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You know, we need to know our history. I mean, there's so many other Black women that we need to know who did that, you know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent response. And, you know, with my writing, I'm always looking at covering as many voices as possible. And one of the things that I definitely ran into, especially with my solo projects, was the feminine, the female perspective. And it was very important to me. I mean, Doc Hill, you just amazing. You just amazing all around the board. But I really wanted this piece for a number of reasons. One of the easier, so more accessible reasons to throw out there is the amazing work. If you haven't seen it, definitely go back to, from a Black perspective, the people that you did with James Brown,
Kendrick Lamar,
and Marvin Gaye. Mm-hmm. And so I knew from that you were doing your research, you were going to give us the history, you were going to go into detail. And so when I saw, and actually, if I remember correctly, even before we finished that last volume, I was seeing what you were doing with Nicki and Cardi and with Megan Thee Stallion. And I said, all right. And I love that. Yes, SENYAH's piece speaks from a female's perspective. NAOMI and Rivers speaks from a female perspective. But in this respect, I love that all of you did it differently. All of you did it, in my opinion, in a way that was refreshing, as well as a nod back to some things that we've forgotten in our history. Even the idea of same gender loving women and their relationships. I mean, we can go back to the African continent, some of the things that are lesser known, but you didn't have the insistence that everyone experiences this heterosexual relationship perspective. I love that with SENYAH, of course, she's given us something very universal. And I think it is very much the Black experience in the sense that we all know somebody that's a little woo-woo. Somebody that we would say is a little crazy, but if you pay attention to a lot of modern fiction and things I know I've especially seen in movies and books, they always say you might got to pay attention to the crazy people every now and again. Sometimes they know what they're talking about. But I especially love what you did here. I think it definitely goes along with the time period that we're in, and this surgence and a resurgence, for lack of a better word, of women in hip hop when it comes to not just the art, but the industry as well. They are producing their own works. They're writing their own rhymes. They're owning their own labels. They're owning their own masters. And it's only as a result of that they get to tell their story. And it ties back into, what we're doing here from a Black perspective. This is our opportunity to tell our stories, to inspire, educate, and entertain our people. And so just a quick nod once again to you, sister. Love what you're doing. Of course, we're going to hear some more from you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along, we have another question for all of the authors. And if you bear with me, I got it here in the comments somewhere. We got a few comments here from Crystal Renee. For anyone who is not familiar, that is our good sister in some of everything. But for this specific purpose, she's definitely our sister in the arts. And she wrote the foreword for this volume of From a Black Perspective and did an amazing job. We thank you again, once again, Crystal. You all definitely want to check that out. Moving to the next question for the entire group. How do you hope that your art will contribute to your community and the world at large? Once again, I'll take that one first, just to kind of set things up. But for me, it kind of speaks to some everything I talked about before. I want to create art that shows us our greatness, that shows not only what we've done, because I feel that there's a lot of strength to be gathered from our personal testimonies, our history, the idea that our ancestors built the pyramids, the White House, the United States. I could go on, but the idea of, what we're doing now, and very, very much illustrated by what these authors are doing, what these presenters, these creative professionals are doing, and what we can do in the future. And the idea that in all those respects, we're showing ourselves our greatness. We're reminding ourselves of our greatness. We're ideally hyping ourselves up, reminding us that anything is possible if we put our minds to it. Our ancestors proved it. We talked about it on several occasions, the idea that here we are, 2025, and for all my bumps and bruises today, I'm not on TV, but I may as well be, because where is everyone watching? We're all streaming, right? And this is something that even 20 years ago, I couldn't have necessarily done. Something my parents, who are a little bit younger on the end of the spectrum when it comes to my generation, could not have necessarily done, our grandparents, so on and so forth, but they did amazing things. We wouldn't be here. We would not have survived the Civil War. We would not have survived slavery. We would not have survived Jim Crow. We would not have survived the civil rights era. And honestly, I can't even say, because I feel like that's still ongoing. But it's all of us contributing what we have. And this is me contributing what I got. This is me doing what I feel that I do best, which is set the stage for amazing talents to come in and do what they do best. And so for me, I'm hoping that everyone comes away not just entertained. I love Josh Johnson, for anyone who's familiar with him, a young comedian that is also a commentator on the Daily Show, but he spoke to some things when he was kind of doing his analysis of Kendrick Lamar, his halftime show. The idea that, entertainment, it has a lot of good things to it, and I'm paraphrasing. Entertainment has a lot of good things, a lot of good purposes, but it will not save us. Being entertained will not save us. Somewhere in there, it has to inspire us. It has to encourage us. It has to inspire action to benefit everyone. And that's what I hope that my art is contributing by and large. Before I get any wordier, we're going to bring up Mr. Ken Compton for his response to that same question.
All righty. Thank you very much, Eddie. Well, as any artist would, I hope that my contribution to the world leaves everybody feeling not only entertained, but enlightened, inspired. I hope to get something positive out of what it is that I put into the world. The downside is that we as artists, we can't at all. Once we put our art into the world, we are not allowed to tell people how to interpret it. They get what they get out of it. Although we hope that they get something positive, they may see the point of what we were trying to say, but they have their own interpretations, so that's, I hope to give the world something great, you know, with the things that I do, not only in my writing, but and other things that I'm doing and working on that I'll be presenting at a later date and time. I hope that they get good things out of it, but who knows? Hopefully I won't find that Richard Wright that's out there, you know. So, but I hope to just leave a positive impact, like you said, to entertain, to enlighten, to inspire. When people read my stuff, hopefully they'll say to themselves, okay, mate, well, Ken did this. What can I do? You know, so what can I contribute to the world? So that's my hope.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Hill, what do you have for the people?
Like, what do I have for the people? Well, I guess for me, I would hope that, to piggyback off my colleagues, I hope to inspire not just my community, but my future students and students that I have now, to let them know that your words have meaning. You can bring light to a situation, and you can write for entertainment as well. Like, when I give them creative projects, I say, okay, you can go left. And sometimes they go real left. I have to have a lot of wine. But for the most part, I hope that my art leaves an impact to say, as a woman, a Black woman, I was able to share my stories and my visions as to experiences that I've had, those that I hadn't had, and the creative side of my people who have always made something out of nothing. Yes. If you have watched the movie Triple, is it 6888? And I love that movie, right? Yes. And so when you do the backstory and the history is a lot. But one of the things that Carrie says as the captain, she comes in, she said, you know, we've been used to taking a little something and make it into a palace or whatnot. She tells the women. And so I went back and I did the research, and he literally built a beauty shop. They had the food in there. They did everything on their own. So for me, I hope that my art will do the same thing. It will inspire people to say, I can take a little something and make a big something, because we've always had to make do. So that's my goal.
Excellent, excellent. SENYAH, your thoughts?
So I like the question about contributing to the community and the world at large, and I'm gonna just take it in a slightly different way, from the macro to the micro, because first I art for myself because I have to, and I am a part of my community, and I am a part of the world, and I can show up as my best self when I am able to express through art. So I think that's the first thing that it does. I think everyone wants, well, most people want to leave some kind of legacy, and I absolutely do as well. But if nobody read my work or saw my art or watched any of my films or any of that, the fact that when I needed to, I was able to say something, to get my voice out, and to create through whatever tumult I needed to create through. I know that in the spaces that I inhabited, I was a better person. And the environment benefited from that. So that's my answer.
Excellent, excellent. I love the piece about the idea that we create for ourselves first. I believe that's the case for most creative professionals with most of our projects. And I guess that's ultimately too, going back to the idea of trying to inspire everyone, and that, you know, we all have something to contribute. And the idea that, you know, it's usually something that serves you first. It somehow fulfills you first. Next with this question, let's go to NAOMI and Rivers.
SENYAH, thanks for saying that you create for yourself first. I really remember early 80s, right? It was Alice Walker and The Color Purple. And, you know, that was one of the first books that I really could see me and how I love. And then to come out with the movie, I distinctly remember sitting there with my mother watching the movie, and I'm thinking, oh my. But it was still very accurate. And so I hope that with what we've created, it gives people some sense of joy, some sense of hope in seeing themselves in that book, and that love is universal, and we all deserve love that makes us smile and skip a little bit, right? It brings some joy. So that's what I hope.
Excellent, excellent. Rivers.
And I think that our writing both appeals to people who love like us and people who don't. And we've been told that. And so that is deeply satisfying as well. So because of our past affiliations with military, with healthcare, and in Naomi's case, obviously, many of us know people that, don't love like us, but yet, they wanted to support us. And of course, we're like, great, you bought the book. And so for us, you bought the book. And so then they go, oh, we love the book. And we went, oh, you read it? there are some parts that make some people blush. And so, but anyway, it was good in that regard. And so we hope that people can see various parts. And we've also been told that they can clearly, envision the spaces in which are described and can see themselves, even if they've never been to Baltimore or Baltimore's harbor. So that's wonderful.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Of course, I want to keep attention spans in mind, and this is great information. I want everybody to have time to digest. So we're going to do another quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back with the second half of our Q&A. Stay tuned.
I got realness, I just kill cause it's in my DNA. I got millions, I got riches building in my DNA. I got dark, I got evil that rot inside my DNA. I got off, I got trouble, some heart inside my DNA. I just win again, then win again like Wimbledon I serve. Yeah, that's him again, the sound the engine in is like a bird. You see fireworks and Corvette tires skirt the boulevard. I know how you work, I know just who you are. See, use it. Your hormones probably switch inside your DNA. Problem is, all that sucker shit inside your DNA. Daddy probably snitch, heritage inside your DNA. Backbone don't exist, burn on side a jellyfish I gauge. See my pedigree, most definitely don't tolerate the front. Shit I been through probably offend you, this is Paula's oldest son. I know murder, conviction, burners, boosters, burglars, ballers, dead. Redemption, scholars, fathers, dead. With kids and I wish I was fed. Forgiveness, yeah. Soldier's DNA.
Now, back to our show.
All right, and we're back. We're going to go and keep the great conversation going. We're going to bring up Michelle with a question for SENYAH.
Hey, SENYAH. This is a big question because your mark has been throughout this anthology. Okay. And right now, today we heard you speak, but you are an artist. You bring your whole self, and you mentioned about that before, how whether it's in your art, in your writing, and you're doing that, you bring your whole self into it. Looking at your involvement in this whole project, how did you feel? How did your art, the artist in you, impact how you looked at the project, going from day one for the first book in the anthology down to where finally in this last one, here you've written a piece. So you've done visual, written. How do you feel?
I feel grateful, and at each installation I felt surprised. It's not like Eddie and I together were at a drawing board 3 years ago, or I was at some drawing board by myself plotting like, okay, I'm going to pitch this idea. It was literally, I created the visuals independently. And when I had a conversation with Eddie, they aligned with what he was doing. It's like, great. And then with the stories, he told me what he was doing. I was like, oh, I was writing something. He liked it. And then next time around when he was doing something, oh, I was writing something, and he liked it. And so it kept the inclusion just kind of kept happening organically. And so I'm grateful. And it's like a happy surprise, like, yay, I love this. And then of course, I was just screenshotting it, he's wearing a shirt with my work on it. That's pretty dope, So it's just been an enjoyable experience, and I feel grateful.
I like that you didn't, many times people think they were going to stay in their silo. If they write just serious stuff, they're going to do that. They write this, they're going to do that. Or if they paint, they wouldn't think about doing it. And you basically said, you know what? I don't have a silo. I don't have a lane to stay in. My lane is like a 5, 10, 15 unlimited superhighway, and you just bring it all. And I just applaud you and thank you for helping us see this visually, reading it, and back to Eddie, who heard, yeah, girl, I like this, and you just sort of said, hey, I did this, and we need more people like both of you for our artist community, and to tell our stories, and to continue to build and grow and have our new Harlem Renaissance.
Ashe, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, and definitely gonna talk about it more going forward. But thank you again, SENYAH, for everything that you've done, especially when it comes to the written works, the visual art, the promotion, the inspiration, the calls, the check-ins. Just thank you. We're going to move. We got a quick segue because we got a couple things going on here, but I also want to take this moment to thank a couple of brothers who could not be present. First and foremost, we want to thank Mr. Owen Patterson. He contributed, actually his piece was The Homeland. Is the actual title. It's amazing work. Owen does just a lot of different things, and one of the reasons I love him so much is that he equally masters poetry and prose. And he gave us a great bit of prose in this final volume. We also want to thank EROS, the artiste, who was scheduled to be here today. We had some technical difficulties through no fault of his own. We are definitely going to make sure that you get to hear from him at a later date and time. Also, as our time is winding up, we got a little less than 30 minutes here. We're going to let Wyatt field another question for all of the authors. And we're going to start in with Ken. And as I understand it, he might have to get up out of here in a second. So Ken, if you want to take this opportunity to leave your well wishes for the people as well, go ahead and do that. But let's bring up Wyatt and Ken. Take it away.
Hey.
All right, Ken, what is next for you artistically?
I am actually, it's been a long endeavor, but I'm actually still chugging away on something that goes back to the first book, Graffiti Park. It's a novel that I'm still working on. I've experienced some setbacks, particularly last year with things that have happened in my personal life. But for those of you who've been very patient, I am working on it. So stay tuned. More to come. I would like to use this opportunity, however, to thank Eddie Pierce for allowing me to express myself in each volume of the anthology, because each piece represented something different. The first short story was the longest piece, Graffiti Park, was more for entertainment. When I get around to writing the book, there'll be more meaning and more personal elements involved in that. But the second piece, Geraldine, was something more personal from the source of inspiration for writing the story. So that was something personal to me. And then this piece, Disclose, was to get a conversation going, about relationships, marriages, because it has long been a belief of mine that, I'm not married, but, I see so many marriages fail, and I'm like, well, what did you guys, you never know what these reasons are. Courts call them irreconcilable differences, and, you have infidelities and things. But I think there's a lot more that plays into a lot of that, especially when you want to break down irreconcilable differences, and then I asked myself, one of these people, how well did they get to know each other prior to dealing with all this? And I offer just one dynamic with Disclosed. Did you talk about finances? Did you talk about this? And then you add the whole secret that Thurman has that he's keeping. You throw that in, you know. So this piece was definitely one to get the conversation going. So that is my. But this has been a fantastic ride. You know, I couldn't ask for anything more for you know, Eddie, including me. It has meant the world. So it is truly an honor. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Brother, I
let's
just had
see.
to tag in real quick because I know Ken got to get out of here. So I want to give him his flowers, so to speak, while we're present. It's worth noting, without going into anybody's business, including my own, that this has been an interesting year for, I think, everybody. I think we can all speak to the idea that life has been lifing for like the last 18 months that feel like 18 years. But I just want to really thank you all for, and specifically, I'm going to say this to Ken right now, thank you all for your perseverance. Thank you for contributing in every way that you could. Thank you for being diligent. Thank you for being brave. Thank you on behalf of all of the viewers, and we look forward to supporting what you have coming up next. So, brother, you go ahead and handle business. We will talk soon, and then we'll let Wyatt pick things up with SENYAH.
Thank you.
I mean, sorry, Dr. Hill.
So, okay, Dr. Hill.
Yes.
So
yes.
tell us.
Oh.
Yes, Dr. Hill. What's next for you artistically? What do you have on tap?
I have a couple of projects coming up. I'm writing now about Maxwell, and that's due in a couple of days. And then I have a project.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have another project coming up about Harriet Jacobs that I borrowed from my dissertation, where I'm not trying to be funny, but Frederick Douglass is always regarded as a hero because he's a man, and he escaped with no wife, no kids. So Harriet Jacobs almost physically damages herself for the sake of her children and their freedom. And so my perspective is that her story is just not a slave narrative, it is one of her being a heroine, and people don't give her credit about it. So I'm working on a project for Cambridge Publishing that's due in April for that. And my last piece that I'm working on, I'm supposed to be working on it every day, is about the Black Panther Party and how the color black is not just a fashion statement for them, or was not a fashion statement for them. So those are my projects that I have coming up.
Wow, that is great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Who is next? What about SENYAH?
What's coming up on the horizon for me?
Artistically, yeah.
I'm actually working on a novel, and I have been working on it since June of last year.
Great.
And it has been my waking and breathing everything. And I have put myself on a pretty tight schedule, and so I'm literally pushing myself to close it so that I can give it to the first complete draft to my 5 readers that I've identified by April 1st. So I'm pushing, and I'm gonna get there. Last time I looked, I was at like 55,000 words. I'm only pushing for 80. So yeah.
What's the working title, and can you give us a synopsis?
So the title is Some Kind of Way, and it's about a woman who experiences a trauma, and the balance of the book is her journey back to wholeness.
Wow, I like that. Nice.
So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next? Okay, we have Naomi and we have Rivers, and who wants to go first? What do you guys have upcoming artistically?
So we have our second novel, tentatively titled Why Not Us? It's when your best friend needs more than thoughts and prayers. So it continues the story of Jasmine and T. Still a standalone. If folks haven't read this, a simple, complex love story. And it just gives a little bit more about what happens in life and what happens with friends and friends who have children that may need assistance when there's a medical concern, a life-changing medical concern. So hopefully we'll get the final edits to that and get it to our editor and get it then to the beta reader and the art folks. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
All right. I think
so. That actually gets us through that one. Awesome job by it. Thank you again, Naomi and Rivers. We're going to do one final question before we go to a commercial break, and then we're going to wrap things up with the thoughts and well wishers of each of the presenters. So let's go to the next question. I got it here somewhere. And this will go to everyone as we did previously, and I'll start out. What have you gained from this artistic experience? So like I said, I'll start out with it, but basically for me, it's a number of things. We're gonna try to keep it real short, 1, 2, 3, maybe at most. First thing being time, the luxury of time. I learned from this experience that where I wanted to have the book out sooner, wanted to do the event sooner. Actually, ideally, all this would have happened last year, according to my previous plan. And life was lifing. And I got, the project done, and actually just through the whole process, I was just floored in some respects, extremely grateful in others that we had so much time. There was an extensive amount of time left over for us to get our pieces together, to get them proofread, to get the book out. Actually, the book came out a week earlier than I wanted to because we were just that ready. There was the fact that the visual experience that I presented, I wouldn't have had time to do that if we weren't so far ahead. Another thing is just being mindful of, the help that you have. There are a lot of places where I learned this time around to ask everyone that was involved for help, whether it was, with the proofreading, with the marketing. I got some great advice across the board. Naomi and Rivers, you guys gave some great tips and things about marketing, other places that we could put the works, just as an example. But, the project, to say that the project wouldn't have come about without all of you is a gross understatement. I will honestly even just say emotionally invested, emotional energy was not there to get it done. But it was the love that you've all shown to me. It was the brilliance that you've all demonstrated to me that, really had me say, hey, get up, get this done. You got some great people. The world needs to hear them. It was honestly, in a very general sense, the love for our people that, hey, I wanted this out there. I wanted another testament, another brick in our fortitude, another brick in that monument of our greatness to be out there, hoping that it's something that everyone present and everyone in the future can see as a stepping stone that they can, stand on our shoulders in a sense, and do even greater things. So learned a lot about, appreciating time, using time better, taking my time, and the power of community. So next person, let's get Dr. Hill. What can you say that you gained from this artistic experience?
What I have gained is a knowledge of self and timelines and deadlines. It is one thing to have projects, do, and then you're looking at your project going, okay, I can do this, right? And I can do this, and I can write it down, and having to give myself guidelines and saying, okay, I can do this much on this day, this much on that day. So one of the things I take away from this is appreciating, like you said, the time that it's been taken to get everything done. Second thing would be a sense of community and learning about other writers' process. It made me feel like I was not alone in the process, because as you and I talk, brother, there are days that I'm stuck and you're like, how are you writing? And it's just like, I have to figure out sometimes to reach out and say, I am stuck too, that is not coming like it normally would. Typically during my semesters or when I'm in school, it is harder for me to write than it is when I'm not dealing with school. And so I have come to learn that I have to reach out and say, okay, I'm not stuck. Get up and walk away, go have a drink of wine and go have some oysters. I don't know, anything to kind of come back. But that has been the sense of community and time and appreciating I'm a part of this process, because as I'm a part of this process, I'm learning more and more about publications and what you can do, what you cannot do in comparison to academic writing. And it's given me a way to let some of those serious writings kind of go by the wayside sometimes, so I can have an outlet for my other art or my other creative posts. So that's what I'm taking away from this.
Excellent, excellent. And I had to piggyback off of that just really quickly that, I totally understand when you got a project, and I think it's very human for us to want to check off the to-do list, and we want to do it in chronological order. And when it comes to our writing, sometimes we have to say, hey, let's put this piece over here for a second because there's something else itching to get out. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're even going to finish this second piece, but at least put some time into it. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think that lesson will serve all of us well. Next, SENYAH.
I would say that a sense of completion, which is ever so gratifying. As the project was becoming, it was an extreme sense of anticipation and, the curation that you had that was different in each book. It's like, what is this melange going to make, I don't know, it's just been a good experience all the way through the process. But now what I can take away now that I see it all the way through is a sense of completion that feels good. Like it lives, it's there's a trilogy, it's got the theme you wanted, it's visually appealing, like all the things. So a sense of completion.
Sister, I could not agree with you more, but you said it best, quoting Biggie, I believe. It was all a dream. I wanted this Pan-African flag. It was definitely one of those things I said, I got to finish it, for the authors because of the commitment I made, but I was so stuck on having this Pan-African / liberation flag. I'm in love with it. I walk past it on my bookshelf all the time. It constantly reminds me of you all. Of course, everybody contributed, but you're kind of the head midwife. And I just got to show it because our children, they're beautiful. They have your eyes.
Oh, they have my eyes.
Thank you again. We'll look for some more comments from SENYAH in a second. Next, Naomi and Rivers. What has the experience afforded you? What have you gained?
We've been had the blessing of being exposed to other authors, and Eddie, thank you so much for being an advocate and a cheerleader and a sound piece for us. That is greatly appreciated, and we can't thank you enough. We also appreciate just being exposed to others and others' work. It is incredibly gratifying. On a little technical note, I appreciate, since I'm the person that does sort of all the online kind of stuff in terms of the publishing part, I appreciate being exposed to another aspect of how you can upload things and the little tick boxes. And we appreciate you, Eddie, for walking us through tick this box and not this box, if this, then that. And so that was very helpful. And so it was, anyway, we're just like others said, we appreciate being a part of this community.
Thank you. I say it all the time, people think on some level we must be paying each other for thanks because we give them back and forth, but I have to give it back to you. I said it before in so many words that, you all contribute so much to the completion of the project, but it being this amazing experience. One of the things that I looked at and said, and I may have said this in an interview, if not, I'll put it in some print somewhere, but the whole thing was about wanting to experience the Harlem Renaissance, and it was somewhere in the midst of completing this volume that I looked up and said, oh my God, I'm here. This is it. Has it made the quote unquote impact of, the actual Harlem Renaissance or the first Harlem Renaissance? Not yet. Note that, not yet. But it gave me the sense of community. It gave me the sense of inspiration and power and drive and just fire, to do this on behalf of, of course, myself, of course, all of us, our people first and foremost, but how it may impact the rest of the world. So I wholeheartedly echo those sentiments, and we will bring you all back for some final words in a moment. Thank you again. All right, folks, so we are wrapping things up and almost on time. So we're going to go for our final commercial break, and then we'll be back with some final words and thoughts from all of our presenters, starting with our guest co-host, Michelle Elizabeth Brown, Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Sorry, all of us got a mouthful when it comes to names. That's how I know we all gonna be stars. But we'll start in with their well wishes, and then we'll go through the authors, myself being last, and we'll have our quote unquote benediction after this last commercial break.
Bye, on fire, baby, can't dance it. That body banging, what's that? You smile, girl, the overkin. Bye, on fire, baby, can't dance it. That body banging, what's that? I walk by again, I need a look quick. Go, switch, switch, switch. Go, switch, go, switch, go, switch, switch. Go, switch, my bed. Go, switch, there go, switch, go, switch, there go, switch, go. Make sure your posture right, baby, switch. Triple lobster like, I know I think. And she told me fuck her and call her a bad bitch. I can never cuff her, I'm stuck on this rap shit. Fucking up the budget but nothing but rap shit. I know I think. Shea butter Twitter be calling shorty your queen. Head game silly, might give her the Don C. Head game killing, I get her a new McQueen. In case you behind, oh, let me remind you the way that I make my move. While late from the main.
On with the show.
All right, and we're back. The amazing conclusion to what I believe was an amazing event with some awesome talents. And before we get up out of here, we want to give everyone the opportunity to bless the crowd in their own way in the form of final thoughts, final words. And we're going to start with our amazing guest co-host first. And that brings us to Michelle Elizabeth Brown.
Well, I mean, this has been like a really fantastic experience. Many of the people who are authors have been on my podcast, Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown, particularly SENYAH and Eddie, and Wyatt, I mean, Naomi Rivers, Dr. Hill, and getting to know these people. I hope that anyone who's watching will follow up on it. These are incredible examples of Black excellence. Let me say that again. Everyone who's involved in this project through the whole anthology are incredible examples of Black excellence. Check it out, look at it. You may find yourself, your voice that you need to put out there. And there are people between my brother from another mother, Eddie Pierce, my other brother, Wyatt O'Brien Evans, and my sisters and brothers who have been a part of this will help you. Claim your voice, tell your story. It is all our story, and that is Black history. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you so much, Michelle. Of course, I've said thank you so much over the years as it relates to this project over the last few months. I cannot say it enough. I hope that it feels just as sincere, if not more sincere, each time that I say it. You brought so much to it. I always liken this experience of how we kind of get to who's in it. And please know it's not purely about who I selected, but also who responded and who was ready. But it always feels like a game of spades to me, that I'm saying, hey, I'm about to go into the spades game. I'm trying to win these couple of dollars in the tournament, and I'm going to pull down I got the opportunity against my deck. I'm going to pull down every trump card I can, and you are definitely one of the queens. We'll go ahead and call you the Queen of Spades for Blackness. But I felt so ready. I felt so ready when you said you would come on to the project, and then even as you move through things and you looked at where you could help with the promo. And as you mentioned, I want everybody else to know that, you took considerable time and thought and effort into interviewing as many of the authors as you could to give each one of us that moment in the sun, as well as to bring everyone together for this event. And so my heart goes out to you. My thanks goes out to you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'm going to let you get up out of here because I know you got some other stuff going on too. Like I said, I'm not going into nobody's stuff, but it's like, good Lord, it's like life is life. But y'all are pushing through. Y'all are persevering, much like we've always done as a people. So thank you again, Michelle. Thank you. And we'll be in touch.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Brother Wyatt O'Brien Evans, let me preface this real quick with saying that very much like with Michelle, you've done and contributed in some very similar ways in the practical sense of the PR and all of that. But the encouragement, the critiques, the advice, and honestly, I should have said this and I'll mention now, definitely get over to Conversations, a collection by Michelle Brown for her work, and definitely tune in to Wyatt. I love saying it that way. The podcast produced and hosted by our very own Wyatt O'Brien Evans. And one of the reasons that I wanted to bring that up was that in addition to, our actual one-on-one communications, whether it's text, emails, what have you, I'm watching your show like I watch many others out there that are doing very similar things. And it's one of the things that inspires me to go and to get going and to make sure that it's right. And if it's not right, push it back. If it didn't come out right, figure out how to pivot. That's a shout out to our brother. Was it Jeremy Michael Jones? Pivot, pivot.
Yes.
But I'm taking your time, brother. What do you got for us? What do you got for the people?
Well, look, first of all, Michelle is a hard act to follow because everything she said was so thoughtful, impactful, right on point. First of all, I want to thank you so much, first of all, for doing this project because it's groundbreaking, it's critical. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I learned, I was exposed to these wonderful, diverse, talented, dynamic, impactful voices. I learned about the way you work. The way you work is really very, it's intriguing. You learn something from it. I like working with you because you're on point. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. You believe in deadlines, all that. There's no CP color people's time with you. Everything is just so on point. I want to thank you for that because that's the way I work. Okay, now I wrote some stuff down because I'm getting senile in my old age. So here we go.
Me too.
From a Black perspective, yeah, well, I'm older than you are. Anyway, from a Black perspective, The Homeland is a significant anthology that celebrates the diversity within the Black literary community. The volume presents a sterling showcase of inventive and daring and diverse Black voices that explore various corners of the life experience. So in other words, buy this book. You have got to buy this book because it is truly amazing. And you know what, man? I'll say this and I'll end it here. What you do for aspiring and established authors, man, it's just, it's incredible. And I'm so glad you do it. So I want to thank you for that.
Brother Wyatt, thank you once again. And speaking to one of those things that I try to remain true to and be consistent with, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. Kind of coded message, but the people are getting still. We worked on some things and behind the scenes, look forward to more features from this amazing author, advocate, producer, host, the author of the Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series. And if you saw recently, I did a written review of the most recent installment in the work, Shattered, which is out now.
Thank you for that.
My written review is out there. We're working on some stuff so that you all can see a video conversation that we started, which, brother, that I go back to that conversation to remind myself of some ways to stand on business. And I'm not going to let that conversation go to waste. So we're going to do some things and jazz up some things that gets out there, but also want everyone to look forward to the upcoming release that's also part of that series. Go ahead and start it to us real quick, Wyatt.
Yes, the Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series of novels. Shattered is the most recent installment, but Inferno drops in November, so that's going to be the new installment. It's going to be hot. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be all of that. It's going to be 2 bags of chips and some Pepsi. So get ready for it.
All right. Look. Hey, this is a pivot, but I'm not even going to do that. Look up Pepsi and Coke. Just saying this to everybody in general. Look up the history of those 2 companies. Look who leaned towards Caucasians only, and look who started the brand using Black folks. Very important. Won't go into it just this week. But, just want to make sure that everyone knows, like I said, look forward to other amazing things on his own. Why ain't going to get it done? But we definitely going to be featuring him a lot more. So, brother, thank you again. I said it before. It's worth repeating every time I talk to you. We make each other better. Iron sharpens iron. And let's be ready to serve the people going forward. So we will talk soon.
You got it, my brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, let's move to NAOMI and Rivers. Any final words, thoughts you want to leave with the people?
I think my final words is that this really was kind of like the Harlem Renaissance, where there was social commentary. Lots of different artists came together. And then you had co-hosts who have their own platform to be able to share their knowledge and their resources. And so while we were only part of the last part of your trilogy, it has been a pleasure. And we just thank you. We thank you for being included. We thank you for allowing us to be able to share our story and our part of our pride and our identity. And so just thank you to everybody.
What she said.
I love that. See, that's how they work. They team. They got it. I will say once again, I said it before and I'll reiterate it again, but once again, thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for bringing several, in my opinion, unique perspectives to the collection. One of the things with regards to the collection was that I wanted to cover as much, like I said, I think in an interview with Michelle, as much Blackness as I could fit into this, in the sense of the cover art, the music for the ads, the video trailers, of course, the writing, but some things that were missing. One of them, in my opinion, was the same gender loving woman experience, but in a larger sense, the love story. This was, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying this correct, this was the first and only love story in the entire series. And so you came in, the 2 of you, and you filled a huge void when it comes to the content. But once again, the sense of community, what you gave, I still got all kinds of notes of the amazing things you all told me to look into. Thank you again for even telling me about the Readout Literary Festival, which happened, was it last week or the week before? I was known to reach out to them and get the chance to do something virtually. And so, just examples, very small, very few in comparison to what you did, of everything that you contributed to my life, to my art, to the cause as a whole, and to the people. And I thank you once again for that. And we will definitely be in touch. Looking forward to that next work.
Thank you. It was our pleasure.
All right. Talk to you soon. Let's go with Dr. Hill.
Yes, I am here. How are you?
Good. Yeah. Girl, I feel a lot better now, but carry on.
Understood.
Any final thoughts and words that you want to leave for the people?
I think that we all play a role in this community of writers. We all play a role, whether it's mentorship, venting, learning from one another. I think that that's the one thing that I'm going to take away from this, because it is a sense of community. We are all in different spaces, having life be lifing. But I think that we always, as Black people, have a sense of community once we come together and work on a project, peace, church. It doesn't matter if it's food. We always have a sense of community and making something out of nothing. So, and I appreciate this opportunity, my brother. I appreciate the other writers on this journey with us and being a part of the bigger picture that's later to come. What do you say? It gets later greater, and I think it's going to be that.
Thank you so much. I said I wasn't going to say something behind each person, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to be brief. But, I said before, your work, everybody contributed something. And I can't even say, when I say something, please note that's in plural. But one of the things that really sticks out for me with you is just, I come away ready. Reading your pieces. I come away ready. Of course, there's a lot that can be taken from fiction, a lot that can be taken from even historical fiction, but the facts, the facts and the way that you lay them out, it's, when I look at your work, I've been somewhat told sometimes that some of my fiction almost has a lyrical quality. You do that with journalism for me. It's the flow of the whole piece. And even in this case, it's worth mentioning once again, now what you did last time was one whole cohesive piece, and it was meant to be read all together, and therefore ideally when it's presented all together. In this case, you had the added challenge. Every time I look at you, I was like, oh my gosh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I already know she's teaching all these students, and I teach a few, so I know what she's going through. But the way in which you were able to take all three, weave them together in a way that is easily digestible, understandable, and builds this awesome momentum in the work, in the literary work, and then do so in your presentation. I come away with some of everything that I said in a lot of respects in the general sense of, I look at the even the purposefulness of all the covers, and in this case, I was thinking I needed green. That was the main thing, and then I saw a picture that was done by a brother from Chicago. His artistic name, Big Country, and the piece is Senya's gonna correct me, but I want to say Shy City Rose or Chi Town Rose. But when I look at that rose, it reminds me. I think Tupac probably popularized this the most, and so you can
a rose out of concrete.
Yes,
a rose out of concrete.
That regardless of the circumstances, we gonna rise. We gonna break through, and much like a rose, we gonna look damn good doing it. Yes. Okay, and that's what I get. In a lot of respects from those backgrounds that you're giving us so thoroughly. And it's weird, I have to say thoroughly and succinctly, because I know you could go into so much more detail, but much like I always try to tell my students, you got to stick to the most relevant facts and the ones that kind of, if one fact can sell three others, use that one. You still kind of got to be brief, and you do that masterfully in these pieces. And once again, just the idea that you fill a void in the sense that, yes, we've had female authors before. Yes, we've had female perspectives before, but we didn't have a fact-based female perspective when it came to the pieces, and you gave us something that is very relevant. I feel it very much what you did with the brothers from the previous one, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, Kendrick Lamar, that it's not only relevant, but it's timeless. It's something that's going to be relevant forever. Much like I hope the whole, collective would be. And so I thank you once again. Look forward to where we can further each other's aims going forward, where we can get arm in arm again together and, inspire the youth especially, but, uplift us all, so thank you once again.
You're quite welcome as always. And thank you for having me.
All right. Talk soon. And we're going to end with SENYAH. Oh, wait. Sorry, somebody dropped out and my screens went wrong. Right. SENYAH, I felt only right that I end things with you being one of the first to come on board. And, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to hold anybody up more than anybody else, but in just a very practical sense. I mean, you're all over this work. You know, you're all over this work. And I love, you know, you thank me all the time for wanting to display your art and, you know, wanting to share what you do. And for me, it's a joy to honestly look up every 5 minutes and say, oh my gosh, you did this. Oh my gosh, you did that. Oh my gosh, you did that. And to have a platform in which to share it with everyone. For anyone that missed it, look for the replay of the pre-show. You'll see the acting talents. Very little taste of it, but very good. The acting talents of our very own SENYAH HAYNES. But, you know, wanted to thank you once again for everything that you've done and give you, of course, that opportunity, like I gave everyone else, for final words for the people. What you got for us?
Well, you got me last, so I'll be brief. I'm not trying to hold anybody. I would just say that what you saw here was collaboration. It was community, like everyone else said, and it was people that were putting their heart in their art. And I think that if I had anything to say to anyone out there, it's that however you express, put your heart in your art, and then I think that life will take care of the rest. For some people, that's through fashion. For some people, it's the way they write code. For others, it's how they teach in a classroom. Whatever it is, we all have something to contribute to make our world a better place. And if everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. You know, do your part and do it with heart, and we're going to be all right.
Sister, I couldn't have said it better. Only thing I'll tag on there is that it's Sunday, so my mind is there. And the Bible talks about the idea that the harvest is ripe. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done, but the laborers are few. It's not enough of us out here. And, you know, so I thank you for being one of those people that are out here, not even just out here, but out here in so many different aspects and so many different ways, inspiring so many different future artists, whether they be actresses, actors, writers, visual artists. I believe we can add director to the title. Yes, I thought so. Producer, is that on there yet?
It's on there.
Okay, yes. So, I mean, Sia's doing everything. She's doing everything, and she's probably doing a couple of y'all parts. So all the more reason that, you know, this is a call for everybody. This is a call for everybody to, you know, just put your art out there. Put your art out there. You know, do your best. There's so much more I could say there. I'm not going to riff too much because we already a little over time. Just want to express my thanks once again to the great SENYAH HAYNES, and we'll be in touch.
Ashe.
Well, folks, last one standing, so to speak. Here we are. Just want to thank you all for your support through, of course, in the most immediate sense, the purchases of the most recent book, The Homeland, through, you know, watching this live, watching the replays, all of the shares, the comments, that sort of thing. Definitely want to thank you all for just being a part of the longer journey, where with respects to the entire anthology series. Not going to name names because I'm going to forget somebody and I'm going to be mad at myself later. But I do want to thank all of the authors of From a Black Perspective, The Blood, From a Black Perspective, The People, and From a Black Perspective, The Homeland. Like I said, this was the manifestation. Actually, y'all see it on the back of the cover. I'm not going to read it, but this was the manifestation of a number of dreams. For anybody that does not know, and I'll wrap it quick, Rainbow Room Publishing was, you know, started out of necessity, honestly, for having a vehicle to get my own work out. And once I kind of figured out the basis, at least, of that formula of writing a book, publishing a book, promoting a book, I saw that I had something to contribute. And I've been doing my best ever since then to make this vehicle, well, I can't even say larger, but show how large it is. And this this anthology, in my opinion, was a great illustration of how many fantastic, brilliant, beautiful, entertaining, inspirational, educational authors and artists we could highlight. Please know that this is not the end. While the anthology is coming to a close in the sense of the completed written works, the spirit of it, the cause lives on. Some things that you've seen in the past, and look forward to see more of, the main one being Kaleidoscope, the digital art magazine, the third arm of Rainbow Room Publishing, LLC, the second being RRP Live, but it'll be an opportunity to collaborate with, feature that many more artists and creative professionals across the board. And please know that when I say artists and when I say creative professionals, my definition is quite broad. I'm looking at the art of finance. I'm looking at the art of praise and worship. I'm looking at the art of, culinary, skills. I'm looking at, of course, what we would expect, the literature, the visual arts, the musical arts. So look forward to some information coming very soon on how you could be featured in that upcoming publication. But like I said, we've already gone over our time, so I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. Just want to thank you all once again for your support. We hope that you continue to do so, especially in the form of any congratulations, purchases you can make for the individual artists, the individual authors, as well as our co-hosts. They got some amazing things going on as well. Please do so. And I'm going to leave you with God's infinite love, peace, and blessings. Thank you once again.